Hey. It's very easy to jump on here and speak out and start talking about what's going on in the world and speak out against human slavery, human suffering, and also trying to bring a little bit of hope. But I'm not on here to preach at or talk to anybody today. I'm here to ask questions. I'm just going to ask questions. And you have to answer these questions to yourself. You don't have to debate them with yourself or debate them with anyone else. You just have to answer them for yourself. This is Monday morning. Today's date is October 6th in the year of all of us, 2025. This is Morning Coffee Rant with Dan. But I want to start, maybe not even calling them coffee rants. Like, how about common sense chat? Common sense chat. Every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock a.m., I'm on Revolution.radio, Studio A, Morning Coffee Rants with Dan, and I do get kind of ranty on there sometimes. And now that I know I'm allowed to use, cuss words and stuff on there, sometimes I do that. I can't help myself. If people are offended by mere words and language, but they're not offended by the slavery that we're currently under, and they're not offended by kids being murdered, beheaded, raped, tortured, or other human beings murdered, raped, tortured, and destroyed, lives destroyed, and all the violence and genocide and homicide that's going on in the world, and theft, but the word fuck or any other word, mere word, offends you, you got to really ask yourself some questions. Look in the mirror and ask yourself some questions, because here's another word that offends people and it shouldn't. People who can't think correctly are retarded. There's a real definition for the word retard, and I've actually read it before. It's not a derogatory statement. Your thought processes have become retarded, or they've always been retarded. If you're okay with murder, blowing up children, beheading them, genocide of an entire ethnicity of people, and it's because your team of government is telling you which side to root for. You're okay with that, but you're not okay with words or cuss words. Your thought processes have become retarded, which would then make you a retard. So don't be offended. Be offended by that if you want. I really don't care how offended you are. But I am on Revolution.radio every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Studio A. So I'll be on there. I never know what I'm going to talk about. I haven't been, last week I didn't really talk about a bunch of political stuff because politics isn't the answer. Also, February 21st, 22nd, I will be doing Funnel 5, Freedom Under Natural Law. I was invited to do that. I'm very honored. I'm working on the 1-hour presentation titled The Hammer and the Forge. How you have to forge yourself and forge forward to ignite and spark some type of care of what's happening in the world. Because if you sit by and don't do nothing, and you stay on the sidelines, and you don't speak out against these people in every way you possibly can, your slavery, your children's slavery, and all the violence that's headed this way is your fault. You didn't do nothing about it. You didn't even try. So Ignite, I'm really happy to be doing this. 5 is a number denoting conflict and change. So it's a good number for me. It's one of my synchronistic numbers. So I just threw a few slides up, how it feels trying to tell voters that we are still enslaved, and they want to enslave us even more, because since you haven't healed the contradictions you have yet within your belief systems, you'll hear something that you know is true, and then you'll say, yeah, I know, I get that, but the yeah buts will start. Anytime you hear yeah but, that means that there's some type of contradiction you're accepting there. Yeah, but my side's a little bit better. It's not. They're working together. Okay, they're dividing and conquering us using these things here. They're using skin color, nationality, um, a sexual orientation, religion is a real big one right now, even though it's all a religion. Okay, your social class, customs, political identity is the biggest one. It's us versus them, right versus left, blue versus red. We're good, they're bad. Both sides say it, both sides are right. You're all bad. I'm not saying voters are bad. We've had this two-party system in our mind. And you when you start voting, you're voting for something that you probably are a good person, and you probably have your altruistic reasons, but you're not realizing that this is what the red and blue are doing. They're playing us to keep us fighting one another instead of forcing them to do what they said they were going to do. Okay, they're not leaders, they're rulers. There's a difference. Leaders teach, rulers teach you nothing but fear of consequences for not doing what they want you to do. This is Travis Walton, one of the most famous UFO abductees cases in history. He was abducted in Arizona, gone for 5 days. And there's that 5 again. Dropped back off, found, disorientated near the area where he was picked up. He was you read the Travis Walton story. Read that story. It's a famous story, and they had people show up and try to discredit him, and the government showed up and sent their automatons, who are intelligent in some ways but really fucking stupid in others, and they'd send in their automatons to discredit him, and he took all kinds of polygraph tests which aren't admissible in court, but he didn't fail not one of them, and he even said, I don't know if I was abducted by extraterrestrials or humans or something else trying to make me think they were extraterrestrials, but I was abducted, is what he said. But this right here is something that he is famous for saying, is I've come to realize that the biggest problem anywhere in the world is that people's perceptions of reality are compulsively filtered through the screening mesh of what they want and do not want to be true. That's very true. I watch people go straight into cognizant dissonance when they find out their son, for instance, is a sociopathic psycho who's become completely demented because of alcohol and drug abuse. Straight up cognizant dissonance. Denial. It's the same thing I see with voters who vote and think that they're making a difference, and that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. Well, no, it's me, a non-voter from the outside looking in at y'all, that can see what both sides are playing, how they're playing you against one another. It takes an outsider to look in and be able to see. Since I don't play that game and I'm not part of that voting cult, and I'm looking at things, I can see the games they're playing with you, man. Here's some of the characteristics of psychopaths. These are all psychopaths. Every one of these people have ordered the murder of others. I'm not going to try to convince you. Do some research on it. I'm going to ask you questions. So question number 1. Have people lied? Do people lie? Do human beings lie? Even from time to time. Do human beings in governments, does government ever lie? Have they ever lied? Do they still lie? Not one side, but it doesn't lie as bad. No, they all lie. The answer, you have to come up with these answers. I'm not going to tell you the answers. Do they lie? Have they lied? Do psychological operations exist? Have they ever existed? Have they ever been used effectively? Could they be being possibly used right now? I can keep going deeper with questions because these are things just to think about. Because you got to come up with the answers to these yourself. Does you can hear the crows out there. Does electric magnetic frequency and electromagnetic energy exist? Is the human body largely ran off of electricity? What is an EKG that checks your heart? What is that called? Look up what an EKG is. What does it measure within your heart? What does your brain send down your spine? If they measure wavelengths in your brain, it's an EMG that they use. Look up what an EMG is. Okay? Electrocardiogram. Why is it if we don't have electricity within us? What's the largest conductor of electricity? One of the largest. Water. What's the human body made up of? Like 75 to 80% fluids, water. What do 5G, 6G, 7G towers emit? Could there be frequencies being pulsed out to cause already held emotions that are negative to become magnified in some kind of way? Could that be something that's going on too, to want to drive people to such violence and such ensconced, ego hardened inability to admit, wow, I might have made a mistake, let me think about this. To my right wingers and my left wingers, this is more to the right wing. Out of both of you guys, which political party would be most commonly common sense related? Which political party followers, the Republicans, Republicans, right wing, pro freedom and low government and pro Second Amendment, okay? Out of the right wing or the left wing, which wing of that same carnivorous bird of prey that preys on all of us, which group of political followers, the right wing or left wing, do you think would be more capable, mentally and with equipment and physically, capable of standing up against tyranny? Which is what the Second Amendment was made for, right? My right-wing compatriots, my fellow human beings. Which wing do you think is more capable in training, in implementation, in equipment of resisting tyranny? Would it be the Republican Party, the common right-wing voter? Do they have more ability to probably defend themselves against tyranny, or would you think some pink-haired, blue-haired, gender-confused automaton that's been completely mind-controlled, whose mental health is completely retarded, do you think they can defend against tyranny? Out of which voter do you think is more capable? Do you think a leader would think is more capable of causing us some serious problems when they're working together to enslave you? Answer that question. Once you've answered that question, ask yourself, could they have used one of those things I talked about earlier, a psychological operation, to have that specific party or wing gleefully cheering on the armed takeover of police departments and cities, which are going to be future smart cities? Do you guys want smart cities? Is smart cities a good thing or a bad thing if you're a right-wing person? Do you want smart cities? How do you create smart cities? If you were really thinking 2-3 moves ahead, and it really isn't that much move, but if you were thinking a little bit ahead, what could all this be? What could be the end game in all this to get you to fight one another and to get the population that is more likely than not able to stand up and resist tyranny because they're armed? They fooled y'all into gleefully just saying, yay, go on in. Do you think that possibly that if the left wing was to come back into office, which that may not even be the case, but if they did, Wouldn't they use the same criteria with crimes going up and stuff like that, and all the violence that's happening, which is completely, totally not planned? And would you expect that they might actually then be going house to house to take guns in another 4 years from you guys, who don't use them anyway? You guys are good people. Actually, most of the voters on the other side are good people. You actually are altruistic people. You pick a reason that is really a human good reason to vote, and you're not a bad person for that. What you get fooled into is their Hegelian dialectic of magnifying a problem into its most extreme state, feeding you that bullshit that you willingly eat, and get you to fight one another. So they take a problem that doesn't exist, or one that does exist but is largely not a big deal, make you fight over the most extreme examples of that, so they can institute what they want to institute, their solution in the first place, that you wouldn't normally go along with. And they have you fighting each other as a way of being distracted. I'm asking, could that be the case? If you spend all your energy fighting over the different theories over how a very, you could tell it was government planned, quote unquote assassination of Charlie Kirk, and any other issue that just happens to come into the public venue. Okay? How many times do you think they would show that on the news for real? All that blood as he's coming. I mean, come on. It's like a movie, isn't it? But they'll have you fighting over all these different theories. Keep fighting over them, because it's very important to make sure your theory is the correct one. Here's my theory. They're turning all the poor people, all the citizens of this country, against one another, so we won't pay attention to the bullshit that they're doing to fucking help the other leaders in the world enslave all of humanity. That's what I think. That's just my conspiracy theory. That theory started many years ago, but it was really, really, really entrenched into my theoretical brain in 2020, when all the rulers, not leaders, rulers of the world, of the various countries of the world, worked together in tandem to lock us all down and put diapers on our faces. That was like a Blue's Clue to me. That was a clue. What's the most powerful country currently in the world in the last 100 years? Way ahead of other countries. Spends more military power, technology, than the next 10 to 20 countries combined. If we could divide that country, could they make a new world order, new world government, if this country's divided and in chaos and fighting bullshit wars stretched out all over the place after our military was weakened? Well, that was the left wing's fault. Yeah, they didn't do it, so what can be happening now is happening now. They couldn't possibly be working together. We haven't seen governments of the whole entire earth do that. And it was probably just a political party in our country, just one party of our country, that actually locked down the entire planet Earth. Like, the whole planet Earth was locked down by just one political party in this country. Like, the rest of the world gives a fuck about us. All the governments in the world are working together. Wake the fuck up and look at this. Ask yourself these critical questions. Come up with the answers yourself. It will lead you to the logical conclusion. Every little thing I see points to a population cull, which is currently happening in the world through wars and shots and released viruses, and a population control agenda, which is being put out there now through gender war, through bullshit practices to keep us from procreating. And now what they've talked about for years and tried to hide for years is extraterrestrial existence, and now they're giving us all this disclosure. We live in strange times, but you gotta just have common sense and ask yourself some common sense questions. You know, not to use profanity all the time, but ask yourself some common sense questions. I think you'll come to the conclusion that they, yes, are working together. And you're not wrong or a bad person because you voted or because you were fooled. I've been fooled before too, although I only voted once in my life. Let me tell you the power. Anyone who's ever tried to put me into a category throughout all my years of law enforcement, they always would say I'm a constitutionalist or I was a libertarian that leaned right. And that would probably be some good, descriptions of my political beliefs, I guess, if I was political. But the one time in my life I voted in 2004, I voted for John Kerry. I wanted the war in Iraq with no weapons of mass destruction. I wanted that war over. I'd already served in the Marine Corps during the first Gulf War. I didn't want my then stepson to be drafted and have to go over and spill blood for bullshit for rich people. So I kind of wanted that war over with. I had enough of lies at that point. I still never voted. Of course, I had a left-wing woman. Most women are. Many women are, I should say. I would say by and large in this country more are than aren't. Okay, they want protection. I was talked into voting. I never voted. I voted left. Very strange time in my life. The one time I've ever voted, I was 33 years old. And no, I'm not a Freemason. I was just really 33 years old. And my final decision-making process was what I seen on the television, which told lies to my vision. There was a video of, keep in mind, I'm a former United States Marine. There was a video of, President Bush Jr., who was in the Texas Air National Guard, which is basically almost like dodging the draft. And then here you had John Kerry, lieutenant, wearing camouflage, holding an M16, in what looked like somewhat of a jungle of Vietnam. So I'm looking at both of those things, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to vote for that guy, because he seems like he was, thinking back on it, my decision making was, well, since he was in more danger, okay. But that's how powerful what you see on TV, how it can actually have an effect on you. It has on me too. So how are you being mind controlled every day? How are you being influenced every day? Are you getting out in nature every day? I live in nature, thank God now. So, I get a little bit of relief from the magnetic energy. I do some frequency, I should say. So I do some meditation. Not every day, but probably several times a week. You can do passive meditation as well, but I usually like to sit right by a tree. It's literally like the Four of Cups, if you're into tarot. Like, I'm literally like the Four of Cups, sitting underneath a tree, meditating, but probably no more than about 5 minutes a day. That's just a personal anecdote. But do you do that so you can think for yourself? Or are you just behind your team? Go team. They couldn't possibly be working together, could they? Because that's never happened in history. They've never lied, and there's no such things as psychological operations. They just don't exist, right? Okay, anyway, I wanted to throw that stuff out there at you guys. Have a good week. And I'll be on the radio later on in the week, man. I just had to put something out there, man. Peace out. Go team. I love everybody. And just, you need to think. Do some critical thinking. Before you start cheering for violence, death, and the dehumanization of any group of people. Okay? Till next time, man. Stay safe.